episode, and this sad housewife storyline only reinforced my feelings of not wanting to be in a relationship. Cut to a year later. It was 2017. I'm at British Bake Off, my boyfriend's code name because he's British and likes to bake. And everything I said prior, I'll never date someone younger than me. I'll never date someone in a creative field. I'll never be in a long-distance relationship, went out the window. Here was this super interesting, handsome, charming, quick-witted, funny, infinitely talented British guy who was 4 years younger than me, a former drummer turned tour manager who traveled around the world with bands 300 days a year and called Portland, Oregon home when he was not on the road. More important, like me, he knew exactly what he wanted to do with his life. The goal was to tour for 20 years. We met 11 years into his career, then settled down in a life off the road. All of which was fine and dandy with me because I wanted to be extremely single. I'm talking no relationship, no to even the occasional date just to spend a couple of hours with someone new, and definitely no to a situationship. Okay, to my understanding, this is when you're hanging out, but there are no labels. Yet there is physical activity. However, it's devoid of the respect and sensuality that existed back in the day when adults took lovers. So you just live in this gray area until one of you finds someone to actually date or one of you catches feels for the other, which effectively, quote unquote, ruins everything. Right. That sounds dumb as hell. Thank goodness I'm off the streets because based on what relationships and dating have devolved into, if I'm ever single again, I'd rather close up shop, put an obit for my heart and vagine in the New York Times. Side note, the New York Times is like, obits are for folks who made a contribution to society. Then get my national treasure on and decipher vague text messages from a mediocre dude. Okay, anyway, when I entered my previous long-term relation, I was 27, and when it ended, I was 31. I needed to get acquainted with the 30s version of Phoebe and find out who I was without a partner by my side. Still, when there's a spark, one ought to investigate it, so I did cautiously. And lo and behold, a month into meeting BB, we were in a long-distance relationship. Not ideal, but I knew what to expect thanks to movies. Or at least I thought I did. A combination of drama-filled fights, missed phone calls, and romantic getaways. Of course, there was some of that with Bake Off and me, but mostly it was just a lot of scheduling. Just two people looking at their G-Cals and trying to make love work. As hard as long-distance dating was, we did it for a year, then moved in together, hoping the pain of being apart would lessen. And guess what? Ain't nothing changed. I mean, he was still gone 8 to 10 weeks at a time, working 18-hour days. The majority of our contact continued to be stolen moments via texts or me staying up until 3 or 4 in the morning so we could FaceTime when he was done working. And when we both toured, we were often in different time zones, which meant that we couldn't check in every day. Then there was the booking of flights to see each other, which was followed by the unbooking of those flights because one of our schedules changed, missing each other's important work and family events, us not being able to hug each other when we had exciting news to share or needed our spirits lifted, or simply because a little physical contact would have been the perfect way to put a button on a disagreement we resolved, was a bummer. Thankfully, so much of the time he was home was lovely and romantic and deepened our bond. As a result, I cried harder every time one of us had to leave because the longer we dated, the harder being apart became. So we tried to cope, date nights via FaceTime, sending songs that reminded us of each other, compartmentalizing our brains and hearts. Work is the perfect distraction, and yet the ache remained. We were best friends. So on days when the absence of my best friend truly felt awful, I think back to Betty and empathize. No, I wasn't getting intimate with a home appliance, but I was lonely, and he was too. That's why when he decided to come off the road at the end of 2019 in order to start a travel business, I was overjoyed. After 25 months of dating, we were finally going to be together. 2020 was going to be the year we'd be the couple of my dreams and do all the exciting, fly his mom out to New York as she had never been to America before, and mundane, grocery shopping, things as a duo. Simply put, Bake Off and I were like, pass me those sunnies because our future looked bright AF and we weren't afraid to tell the world. Remember that person who crip walked to All Lang Syne and said 2020 is going to be our year?